right, we're gonna try one more time. One more time. We are gonna try it. See, let's do a systems check and see which sites are live. Should be Facebook for Let's Go Social, personal profile, Twitter, and YouTube.
YouTube is working. Facebook is working.
Oh, it did come up. The live did come up, but
For which one?
for Facebook, the live we were doing came up.
Oh, it did. That's fine.
Yeah, that
That's
is
fine. I don't know why it didn't.
okay. So it looks like it needs 5 to 7 minutes before it actually shows. So in the future, I'll go live like maybe 7 minutes ahead of time,
Okay.
so it's time to pop up. All right, thank you guys. I hope you were able to pop back on. Let's see if you're also if you can send a comment to let me know you're on here. Oh, hi Candy. All right, good. She's out here on Facebook. Bless y'all for hanging in there with me, trying to it's really hard to troubleshoot without people, unfortunately. So we tried. And so Zakia actually donated some of her Memorial Day yesterday, trying to get it to work with me. So hello. Uh, okay. So then, so sorry. First, I want to introduce to some, and present to others, Zakia.
Hello.
So Zakia started working with Let's Go Social and True Story Success um, in December,
Mm-hmm.
right? December, yeah. And so her roles are different for both places. So in Let's Go Social, she is a media assistant, and she's a recent PR grad from EMU. So she has been a very helpful contributor to our media campaigns and content creation. And then for True Story Success, which you know is the brand, like the personal brand, she's our social missions officer. And so Zakia has a wealth of knowledge about the experiences that she's lived, um, which in her short years is actually a lot. So, uh, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's different. The experiences that I have learned in the past and then what I'm learning now, I think it all like builds up all together and I get to use it towards my work that I'm doing with you. And then also learn new things as you know, as my time continues on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm having a really great time.
So, one of the main um, pains I will have um, clients and prospects and friends and family members. They all know I love social media, but I hear it all the time. Like I don't like what they're doing, or you know, um, maybe that was about 3 years ago. Facebook was on the hot seat, and everybody wanted to leave Facebook, and so a lot of people did, but a lot of us stayed, right? And a lot of us pretended like we left, but we really came right back. So, and I'll tell you, that's not just my thinking that. I actually have an extension on my Chrome so I can see when people trickle in and trickle out of my Facebook, and it's so hilarious. Like, so I'm not gonna call y'all out though. But people make an exit like I'm tired of Facebook, I'm off of here, whatever. And I'm like, I give you 45 days. that's that's about it. Usually it only takes like 5 days. And so most recently in the news is Twitter. right? So that's what precipitated this. And that's why I've had an interesting May, but I was determined because I said this May we'll talk about it, and I'm like, oh, May is running out. So at least I was able to keep my word and say we're gonna talk about Twitter today. It's still May. Uh, so I wanted to go over three topics. The one is like how to make that assessment of when a social media site isn't working for you, like the social breakup. Um, and then two, like, kind of which way to go next. And three, if you really decide that you want to, delete an account, what's the best way to lock your data? So I'm gonna go ahead and you're still here with me. I'm gonna give myself a little bit more screen space here. And I'm gonna share the screen. No, wait, just a minute. First, let me go. We're gonna go over to my Twitter. So one of the things that I've done over the past few years is to deprioritize Twitter as a brand tool. Um, I deprioritized it. um, it would probably been about 4 years ago, mainly because the political climate got kind of ugly, and I refuse to be arguing with strangers, right? Like, so that's one thing. And then two, it just wasn't a major thing for me, for what I wanted. But on this flip side, I used to love Twitter. It was hard to back off of Twitter because I love it. I love the way it's set up. I like the idea that you can talk about topics. Some people say, well, what's so good about Twitter? Or people say I need to be on Twitter because, whatever the case is. Well, the reason that I like Twitter, and Zakia, welcome to pop on too, is because unlike a Facebook or a LinkedIn, it's really not about people, the person, so you don't really have to discuss people, or you don't have to have gone to high school with the person. You just connect on topics. The hashtag is still important. It's not as important as it was, 5 years ago, but it's still important to have to help look. But most discussion topics can be traced without the hashtag now, but don't get rid of it altogether yet. So, what I realize is when I speak with people about their Twitter, the first thing is that most of us use our phones for a lot of our interactions, right? And so when I take people on like a little excursion through their Twitter. And so uh okay, I'm going to date myself, but once upon a time there was a big term that IT people used to use, which was giggle. Garbage in, garbage out. Okay? So sometimes when you're not having a good experience on a social media platform, just means that you're not positively contributing to that platform. You're not making sure that your followers are real. You're not making sure that you're interacting with the people that do follow you. You're not going on there and seeing what's going on. So like when I look here, when somebody says I'm on Twitter but I don't use it, that is like the most common thing people say to me. Oh, I don't really use it. Well, you go on here, and you want to make sure that, uh-oh, like, see here, wait a minute, new website coming this spring. Now, that was a whole lie, right? Because it's almost summer. I need to update that, right? But we're not gonna go there. um, excuse me. Sorry. I do not have COVID. I'm not sick. I just have leftover cough, and then I exacerbated it by trying to do an oil change in a lawnmower, so my lungs are clearing, just so you know. And so we look through here, we can see little examples of who to follow and such. Uh, some of us are always ready on the trigger to follow who they suggest. I Anytime you follow somebody on a mature Twitter account, I suggest you quickly go to that site or that page or whoever it is and see, is this something you want to follow? Do you want this in your news feed? So, like for me, looking here, I'm just scrolling through. This is a cursory look. When I look at Morning Brew, I'm not going to follow them right now, and I'm gonna tell you why. I already get their newsletter, right? They, I literally have contact with them at least once a day. I don't need them also on the Twitter, and I also can look and see that this is the same information that's in the newsletters, except for it doesn't have um, the sources. So in today's misinformation maven, you know, everybody wants to share information, but we're not really doing due diligence to make sure that it's safe and good. So the other thing is people have been complaining about Elon Musk possibly acquiring Twitter. This acquisition is not in stone, and we don't know exactly how big of a role he'll play in it, or if it's just a power move. You know, Elon Musk is I think he's the founder of Tesla, and he's just you might have seen him in a little rocket that went out to space. Um, he's just a man with a lot of toys and a lot of money, and this is something he might get involved in, or it just might be another business move. And we don't know yet. And we might not know for 6 months out. So if you are in certain professions, or if you really have invested a lot of time and energy into Twitter, I want you to consider that, don't make any sudden moves. So the next thing, when you do um, assess whether you want to stay or not, you want to look at um, what is Twitter doing for you now. If you're doing something to make it better, so like, are you actually working on the Twitter? Are you invested in working on it at all? And what kind of career advantages could you be afforded in the future by having a Twitter account? One of the big reasons is journalists and authors, they love Twitter. I mean, there's just a lot of um, Twitter action. I mean, if you're into pop culture, um, oh, thanks, Maya. If you're into pop culture, you'll know that a lot of the articles, quote unquote, that we see all started from a tweet, right? Or a clip, where that's the kind of society we're in right now. So if you're trying to build brand awareness, it may not happen overnight, but a lot of times these big conversations start from a tweet. So also, you can look back at a tweet for a long time. You can pull up um, every tweet you've ever done. In fact, you can go back to your first tweet. So that archival quality didn't makes it different from like a Facebook. Have you ever tried to go look with your own profile and find a picture you used to have up or something like that? Have you ever tried that, Zakia?
I do all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's not fun.
It's not. It's not. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of time.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is kind of made for that. And the last thing to think about is the data you have put out here. Um, if you are pulling together either now or in the future, a website, a brand, a book, articles, or just brain activity that you've had, you want to make sure that you have everything in one spot. And Twitter has been a great spot. You might have quotes, things that just came up. So you want to go ahead and lock down your data. So one way to do that is to actually go. Wait a minute. I gotta go to your settings, and we're going to go. Let's see. This is always moving around. We're going to go and find your um why am I blanking? When you we're gonna find the things that you've already saved or already put out. We're going to actually um bring those down or download those. Settings and privacy. Here we go. Download an archive of your data. This is important because if you are ready to really, really make this next step, if you just delete your account, you lose everything you've tweeted. And some of us have Twitter accounts that are 10, 15 years old. That's a lot of data to lose. So, by verifying your password, I'm not about to do this right now, you can download everything. The other thing is to understand is that you really don't delete your account. You'd have to deactivate it. And before you deactivate it, you need to go in and detweet. So detweet is so a tweet is the little message you put up. A retweet is when you share someone else's message, and a detweet is when you erase what you put on. Um, so when you get ready to deactivate your account, look here, it still keeps it for 30 days after deactivation. And so right here, some account information may be still available in search engines such as Google or Bing. This is one that politicians have learned the hard way. Just because you detweet, because you delete a tweet, does not mean that it's gone forever. Okay, if you would need like a reputation management person or someone who would call it's called scraping the internet. So you'd need to scrape the internet for, if you've had any controversial tweets or anything like that. Um, then, um, so here, if you want to download your Twitter data, and this is one I've had this conversation with several people in the last month. You cannot get your information back after you delete your account, after you deactivate it. So it's really important to do the steps. So the first thing is to do due diligence on exactly why you're here, and is it serving you, and if it isn't serving you, how can you make it serve you. If you need to have a one-on-one with a social media person, then do that. Or it might be just sitting and looking at your brand goals, or even your personal goals, right? So seeing if this is something you want to continue doing, or if you feel like your morals and your values are deeply compromised, then you can start taking the measures of downloading your data and stuff, so that you're already in the process, so you can go either way. The other thing is, I've also seen um, a lot of conversation around the privacy laws. And it is important that you don't make rash decisions because of a clip, like a little info clip about a certain piece of the privacy policy, because all of these social media sites have certain boilerplate language. And so you might say, for a minute it was Facebook. Oh, well, Facebook can, use my information this, that, or that way. They cannot use your information any sort of way. It has to be in the privacy policy. but also understanding that all of the social media sites all have very similar language, which is if it's a public post, it can be shared and it can be used in advertise for advertising purposes. If you like something publicly, so if you like um, Nutella, like myself, right, and I've liked that public page, then when somebody's searching that they want to market towards people that have Nutella, um, as part of their preferences, then I can be marketed to not only for Nutella, but also kind of identity or sympathy brands that, like if I like Nutella, I might like pretzels or, the things that go along with each other. So those are the kind of privacies that we give away freely all the time, and they all can be um, locked down. So make sure that you I used to hear, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So when you're looking here, um, you go to analytics. So, oops, I don't want to do that. But anyways, we go to our analytics. You can see I haven't been keeping up with my Twitter this last couple of years, really. Um, so when we look here, um, part of so Twitter has now this thing called Twitter Blue, and I think this is probably, this is my own theory, okay? Is that I'm thinking that with this new Twitter Blue that costs money, is not the free app, that they are going to start if we get somebody like Elon Musk, he is going to start enhancing big data for Twitter to attract more businesses, more big data businesses that are marketing firms that want to attract, new shoppers. So he's gonna to create a big warehouse of data. So that's something that, if you keep your information in your tweets um, about the discussions and don't give a huge amount of personal information, you'll be fine. But it's something to think about, right? So the Twitter Blue has to make it somehow. They have to have something to show for it. Already, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn all have extensive, very information that you can find out about your demographic. And as a consumer of that social media site, you can go in and ask for it not to track you, but you have to do it on every one. So there's usually a page, and you have a whole list of businesses that are tracking your interests. So you have to, do that for everyone. Now, Google, you can just do one fell sweep and say, I don't want to be marketed to, on my Google page. So, anyway, so that is uh, what I wanted to go over. We went over a little bit of time. We had some technical difficulties, still having some technical difficulties, but I think we made it through the first one. And make sure and reach out to me in the DMs or whatever what you missed, what you'd like to see. So um, just on Twitter or any of these apps, we can talk about how to tailor and kind of privatize your page and what you have control over. To how to mute certain conversations. So, like, with the previous presidency, I muted anything that had a certain person's name involved, anything. So I missed some things, but I'm okay with that because I didn't want to be, have blood pressure issue because of my Twitter feed, right? Um, also, be thinking about, we can talk about like digital racism. So, um, from a personal standpoint, but also professionally, I know that my ads my 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 social capital on social media uh, is not doesn't weigh as much as a bigger business or a white centered business. So I know that, um, but you know, we can talk about how apps become racist when because of the algorithms. So, anyways, just let me know what you want to talk about next. I hope you're having a good Tech Tuesday and have some things to think about before you make your next social media breakup. Thank you, Sakia.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And so, uh, yeah, you'll be seeing a lot more of this one. All right. See ya.